Morata, il destro, bene per Dybala, sinistro, gol!
Lewandowski, Ball rein damit in die Mitte, Schieber mit dem Kopf, Reus, quer, Linie, Tor,
Golazo de Cristiano Ronaldo para el Real Madrid.
Il est passé Lucas, il est passé, il va tenir ce ballon, le remettre dans la... Quel but extraordinaire d'André Di.
Hello and welcome to the Football Hipsters podcast, week 28. This time has flown by. I am your host, Kris, and I'm back in the hot seat again with my regular crew of fine gentlemen of the footballing persuasion. It's John, it's Tom, and it's Drew. Good evening, everybody.
Evening all.
What's up?
Good evening.
And you join us an evening where we're recording a little bit late because we've all witnessed the miracle that has happened. Leicester City finally clinching the Premier League Championship. So we should just give them a little nod. I know this is not the English Breakfast pod, but nevertheless, credit where credit's due. Let's give them a little nod. So well done, Leicester. Well done, Claudio. Right then, so on with this week's show. We've got plenty of action to catch up on around the continent. Lots of goals, lots of action, lots of drama as usual. But we're going to start where we always do, and it is this week's Mighty 90. Okay then, this week I am going to start with John, whose Mönchengladbach side had a rather daunting away trip, which is most away trips for Gladbach, let's be honest, John. But this week was even more daunting as you went to Bayern. So let's see, did they spring a surprise or did they get a tanned bum? Your Mighty 90 begins now.
Yeah, so as you say, it was away from home and against Bayern Munich, so wasn't really looking forward to this game, but unbelievably we got a draw. I really didn't see this coming. Our away form has been so bad, especially second half of the season, and obviously Bayern Munich being Bayern Munich, I thought we were going to get an absolute spanking, and it looked like that at the start of the game because just 5 minutes in, Bayern took the lead. Just a simple corner, Müller knockdown header, sort of trying to guide it towards the back post. Jan Sommer sort of came for it. He got a hand, but kind of flapped and didn't really connect properly with it. And Tashki was there on hand to tap it in for Bayern to take the lead. After that, we actually looked quite good and we were pressing. We created chances. Hahn, Traore, Rafael all playing really well. Bayern obviously as well had plenty of efforts, but we actually tested Neuer a few times in the game. Andre Hahn had a really good chance, first time cross from Patrick Herrmann that he just couldn't quite get on the end of, but it was Lars Stindl who turned the game around for Gladbach, came on, made a few chances, and finally put in a perfect ball for Hahn to run onto, who didn't control it great but knocked it out of his feet just enough. Really good low finish past Neuer. And that's how the game finished, 1-1. Lars Stindl did have a really nice speculative shot from about 60 yards out as Neuer was off his line with 3 minutes to go. But yeah, 1-1, decent result. So keep going.
Happy days. Thank you very much. That's your time. So unexpected, I think it's fair to say, with that result.
Just a little.
A good one. Wonder if Bayern had their eyes on Champions League affairs. Me thinks so. But still, they're close to the title, which we'll touch on with Drew later on. But let's move on then and pick on someone else. Drew, I'm actually going to pick on you next, in fact. With just a week to go in the Dutch Eredivisie. Well, I say title race, Feyenoord are not involved, sadly. But nevertheless, let's see how they got on this week. And your time begins now.
Well, leave it to Feyenoord to have me changing my boxers twice in 90 minutes. It was one of those moments where you knew they needed to win. They knew they needed to win, but they just made it difficult for themselves again. We won 1-0 away at Willem II, but it wasn't the most stellar of performances. You could say not only did Willem II create more chances, but either side only registered one shot on target for the entirety of the match. We happened to convert ours, they didn't, and that was literally the difference. I mean, we didn't necessarily play poorly. You know, we did well at the back. A couple of questionable selections, though, by Juventus Bronkhorst. Anis Achambar actually started up top. He actually got the goal, so I guess fair play to him. But Jens Tornstra, who's been brilliant on the right side of the front three all season long, he played center midfield in that sort of Dirk Kuyt role when Dirk Kuyt was there the last couple of matches before he's been not featuring. So, I mean, in such a key match where you needed those 3 points, some interesting calls, but we got them, and it was good because actually Azad Alkmaar actually won 4-1 at home against the Gashap. So we're 4 points clear now, so the season's over. So we get that guaranteed Europa League place. But as you said before, one more week to go, and Ajax and PSV are actually tied on points with only a +6 goal difference between them. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on the final day. But our season's done. I'm happy we got third, and that's what we really wanted. So I really no complaints after that.
Happy days, happy days. And, you know, Europa League spot is not the worst thing in the world, and you can go again next season, and you've got a really nice away kit for next season. So it's not all bad, you know. It's a small mercies, but it's not all bad. Right, maybe it is. Tom, it's your turn now then, and we're going Austrian and see how the Bulls got on this week. So your time begins now.
Okay, so we were away at Austria Vienna, which is usually a really big game in Austria, but this time Austria Vienna haven't been doing too well this term and well behind the Bulls. So it was a different lineup this week. Lyman's recent form got him a start in a newly formed midfield without catering lineup. He was lined up next to Berisha with Bernardo playing behind him, and Soriano was joined up front by Lazaro and Reina. Austria Wien started the better side, early chances for Grunwald and Gorgon, which were missed. And then on 36 minutes, Soriano laid through Lazaro, who ran brilliantly through the Vienna defence and brilliantly finished past Alma to make it 1-0. And then there was a bit of confusion. Berisha got into the box and had a cross-hit shot, same sort of shot that Lazaro had. And it was going in, and Reina decided to run in and kick it in himself and steal the goal, except he was then called offside. Bit of Nani Ronaldo moment coming up there, but unfortunately he wasn't even offside when it happened, so the linesman got that one wrong. But he did make up for that mistake right at the end of the game, the 93rd minute, where he scored a 45-yard goal. It's that typical moment of where your team shouts for the goalkeeper to come up to the other end of the pitch at a corner because you're 1-0 down, and it didn't go for them. Reina hit that shot into an open net from 45 yards, and that means that after the 3 points and Rapid losing 2-0 at Grudig, we're 9 points clear with a superior goal difference with 3 games to go. So you would imagine that Salzburg have got the title. So that'll be the Hipsters Choice first trophy we've ever got.
Happy days, happy days. So there we go, silverware on its way. There certainly won't be any silverware at Lorient this season, sadly. Although, you know, coming close, going out of the Coupe de la Ligue semi-finals. But nevertheless, it's back to the grindstone. And I'll give you a little update on how they got on this week. So my Mighty 90 then begins now. So this weekend it was back to Le Moustoir for a home game against Lille, who you might remember from last week's pod were the losing finalists in the Coupe de la Ligue finals of PSG. But they have been the inform side in Liga, and that trend continued as they got a 1-0 win over my boys, unfortunately. 2 changes to the lineup for Lorient, Gassama and Latoa coming into the defence, and it kind of told early on because all the chances of falling Lille's way. The first chance to Jeannot for Lorient, actually, which was a good halfway into the first half because Lille pretty much dominated. But Lille were very much the dangerous side. The Portuguese forward Eder on loan from Swansea tested Lecomte, and the former West Ham and West Brom man Amalfitano also tested the keeper. But it was 0-0 at half time, and as I said previously, the away side were on top, and in the second period they were once again testing Lecomte with a good try from Eder once again. And the only goal of the game, it arrived soon after on the 56th minute. That man Eder finding his Portuguese comrade Ronnie Lopez on loan from Monaco, former Man City man. And he produced the finish from a very tight angle. Lovely finish, actually. Credit where credit's due. Jeannot and Guerrero both had late efforts for Lorient, but they're a little bit powder puff. And unfortunately ended in a 1-0 defeat for Les Mulots, who remain on 43 points, now dropping to 16th in Liga, unfortunately. Just 2 games to go in the league season now. And next week sees a trip to 12th placed Bordeaux. Kind of one of those where you just want the season to end, really. But that's the Mighty 90s over for another week. So obviously send us your thoughts if you've got anything you want to ask us. We shall move on with the regular pod then and take our little trip into the statistics of the week and see what is happening in this week's world of football. Okay then, so let's see what's been going on. Now, as you probably imagine, or I say imagine, you might know, it's been a bank holiday here in the UK today. So there's been quite a few fixtures that have fallen in the UK charts, so to speak, as far as goals go and games go. And it was the same across Europe, a couple of Serie A games and a couple of one Bundesliga game as well, and a La Liga game also. But I have managed to get all the stats updated. So let's have a look. Goals-wise, Premier League, 31 goals this week from the 10 games. The clean sheets, there were three red cards, 6 home wins and 1 away. In France, in Liga, there was 26 goals this weekend, 6 clean sheets, 1 red card, 4 home wins, 4 away wins from the 10 games played. In La Liga, 23 goals with 7 clean sheets, 3 red cards, 6 home wins and 4 away from home from the 10. And in Serie A, including the goals galore tonight, there was 27 goals, 6 clean sheets, 1 red card, 5 home wins, 2 away from the 10 played. And speaking of goals, there was a couple in the Bundesliga tonight. My goodness, it was 29 goals this weekend for the Bundesliga, 2 clean sheets, 1 red card, 4 home wins, 2 away from the 9 games played. And wrapping up the weekly totals then, 136 goals across the 5 major leagues in Europe, 24 clean sheets, 9 red cards, 25 wins were at home, 13 were away. And that was across 49 games played. And just picking out a couple of stats, as we like to do each week. I'm going to have a look at a bit of a weird one, this one, but draws across the leagues. It's actually Liga is the highest this season, 105 games drawn in Liga this season, followed by the Premier League, 97. Serie A comes next on 90, La Liga on 88, and the Bundesliga way behind, only 67 draws in Germany this season. There you go. Kind of backs up what we've always said about the Bundesliga being pretty exciting. Both teams want to try and win games. And just picking up on that, the clean sheets ratio as well. 153 in La Liga, 150 in Liga, 145 in the Premier League, 148 in Serie A, and 109 in the Bundesliga. John, your Italian boys need to pull their fingers out. They're a little bit further behind at the moment, so have to get that sorted out. And the final one I like to pick up on it. It's always fun to have a look at the red cards, isn't it? Let's be honest. 115 in Italy. There we go, John. We're back in business. 114 in France, 100 in Spain, 38 in the Bundesliga, and 56 in the Premier League. That's the naughty columns. So there we go. There's a couple more stats for you, and we'll start our weekly roundup then as we go into our various leagues. And I'm going to hand the show over to John immediately this week. A little bit of a change around. We're going to start in France. So I shall pass it across to you, John, and we'll start in this week's Liga.
Hello. So this week we're going to get started with a bit of a surprise result. I assume that it would be a surprise result. You'll have to tell us, Kris. Nods against Nice.
Yeah, it kind of is, I suppose. I mean, it's a bit of a weird one. Non's coach is going to leave at the end of the season, as I announced last week. So I suppose it's kind of one of those coach announces he's going to leave, the team rally, get a home victory. I suppose you could see it coming. I'll give you a stat in a minute, which would certainly make you think it was coming. But Non ended up with the points. A 1-0 victory over that Champions League's chasing spot side Nice. It's their first victory in 5 games. It's their first win. It's a good stat, this one. First win over a top 6 side since October of last year. So it's been quite a long wait for Nantes to get a victory at home. It's a big side. But yes, it was kind of one of those games that you looked at and you thought, Nice are really going to have to win this if they are to keep up their challenge. The only goal of the game was scored by Thomason, who's been a bit of a talisman for Nantes. And our regular listener, Janzib, will be very happy. I think he started following Nantes this season. But it's a good victory for them. And it's probably not a victory that is going to change anything for Nantes. I mean, their 48 points are sitting in 9th. They might might be able to sort of go up the table slightly. I mean, they're 4 points off of Rennes in 7th, but they're not going to qualify for any European football this season, sadly. But as for Nice, it's a bit of a dent, really, as far as their Champions League chase goes. Well, it's a big dent, I have to say. It's only their second defeat in 8, but away from home, costly. Therefore, really costly. Only 1 win in 11 away from home. So at the end of the day and at the end of the shake-up, I think they're probably going to miss out on Europe altogether just because of that away form. And then when Hatem Ben Arfa probably departs in the summer, it's going to be a bit of a rebuild job, unfortunately.
Bit of a shame, but yeah, as you say, it's probably best not to go into Europe if your away form is that poor. You're not really going to fare very well. On to the next one. Another surprise result. Saint-Etienne against Toulouse. I would have thought there might be more goals in this, but none.
No, none. Another fun stat for you. St Etienne, it's their first 0-0 draw at home since August 2014. It's a long old time, over 2 years, and they're really putting in a late push for this Champions League spot. Obviously, we've been talking about Monaco and Lyon duelling it out. More on that in a minute. But St Etienne are only 4 points back, and it only takes certain 2 clubs above them to draw a game, and they just might nip into that third or even second spot. But you're right, John. I would think there would have been goals here because Toulouse can't defend for Toffee, and St Etienne can only really score goals at home. So it did suggest there'd be goals. There should have been one, but Wissam Ben Yedder decided to miss a penalty, unfortunately, or Stefan Ruffier made the save. It wasn't the best penalty, has to be said, but a missed pen, and that really is or could cost Toulouse. They are kind of in a bit of a pickle. Second bottom, obviously they had that good couple of wins a few weeks ago, but 2 draws and a defeat in the last 3 is cutting them down at the bottom. So it's not the result they would have wanted in a game that they probably would have looked at and thought they could have got something from. 2 points from the last 3 games though. I'm not sure they're going to have enough to be honest to stay up, even with the change of coach and with those goals. And of course, Ben Yedder himself and Braithwaite probably going to be off at the end of the season. That's not going to help them if they go down to try and get back up. But the only other thing to mention for this game was Loic Perrin, who is likely to be the man to come into the French national side. If the injuries continue at centre half, or of course in case Mr. Sacco takes more of his diet pills, he's likely to be the man going to the Euros. He won't be if he makes challenges like he did this weekend. Absolutely horrendous red card challenge saw him depart the pitch on 77. But yeah, not a great result really for either side. St Etienne would have wanted the 3, and Toulouse needed them. Neither of them got them.
Always knew that Ben Yedder was overrated. Miss a penalty, terrible. Back to our other friends, Lyon, still going from strength to strength. Yet another win.
Yeah, not convincing either. So it's when a team is really pushing to try and either win a title or get into a Champions League spot.
Oh, cliche klaxon, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They ground it out. There's another cliche for you, but they did. They weren't great, but they picked up the massive 3 points they needed. They're still unbeaten in their new home, which is good for them. And their next match is against Monaco, which I'll touch on in a second. But it was a good way to set it up. They had to win. They did win, just about. 2-1 was the scoreline margin over good old friends Gazalek Ajaccio, friends of the pod. Rashid Ghazal scored sort of from a corner almost in 10 minutes, and it all seems to be going rather nicely. Max Cornet doubled the lead 5 minutes before half-time, and it was all quite plain sailing. But then Gregory Pujol scored an absolutely delightful chip. If you haven't seen it, do look it up. Over Anthony Lopez in the Lyon goal. And Gazalek really pushed, really gave Lyon a game in the second half, but ultimately, Lyon just about had enough to kind of cling on to the points. I say cling on; they were comfortable, but they held Gazalek at sort of a long distance, and they got the points they needed. As for our friends Gazalek, they haven't won away this calendar year, so that's not ideal. Talking about away form, but at the moment they're just about safe, mainly because of Toulouse and Rouen below them, kind of pooing the nest. But it's going to be tight, it's going to be tough, but a good result for Lyon, and Gazalek will probably have looked at this pre-game and thought, well, we're not going to get much from it anyway. Yeah,
one of those games you think, oh, it's a freebie. If we get something, that's great. Last game to talk about, speaking of Rennes, is Rennes v Montpellier. Again, another team in need of points.
Yes, and they didn't get them, I'm afraid. They're in a real pickle. They brought in a couple of players in the January window, and you thought, yeah, okay. And Bifuma, in fact, was one of them. You thought, yep, they've probably got enough to stay up. They should be okay. it's gone horribly wrong. Has to be said. The coach is gone. It's been a real mess. Quite why they fired him at this stage of the season, I'm not really sure. It's not like it's going to change a lot, but they were beaten by 2 goals, or 3 goals to 2, 2 goals to 3. Kamara put Montpellier in front, and then it was quite a quiet game, really. I was on the 38th minute, and then we had just a crazy last 7 minutes. Prince Odiange, great name, he got ram level, and Congre put Montpellier back in front literally a minute later from the next attack. Morgan Sanson scored a 86-minute third, a hat-trick of assists from Riyad Boudebouz, by the way, and then Bifuma himself got one back in the last minute, but it wasn't enough for Ram, who are, I think, going down. I really do. I think Gazlak are going to survive because of how poor Ram have been, and it's only 5 wins in 28 games this season. That's quite a stat. It's relegation form, let's be honest. No clean sheet in 11 games. Another bad one. As for Montpellier, though, Frederick Ernst, their manager, he's a bit of a magician, really. With 3 straight wins, 9 goals to boot. They've shot up the table since he's come in. They were in real danger of dropping out of Liga at the start of the year, but he's turned them around completely. And they'll be looking to build on it. They're up to 11th now, so next season I would say they want to push for a European place.
Yeah, nice to see Montpellier doing well. Always had a little bit of a soft spot for them.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us the rest of the results and the quite frankly crazy league table as it stands, where everything is so close?
It really is, yeah. Well, PSG win Klaxon. You can put that one back in. Back to winning ways once again. 4-0 victory over Rennes. Doesn't really help Rennes' push, really. But 2 goals from Zlatan, who's on for a record now. If he keeps up his scoring record, he could get the all-time league top goal scoring record for a season. Cavani and Maxwell scored an absolute beauty, by the way. Maxwell's first. They were the goal scorers there. Monaco beat Guingamp by 3 goals to 2. Much needed victory. Traore, Nabil Dira, and last week's Hipsters Choice Bernardo Silva scoring for Monaco. Erdic and Angoa getting goals back for Guingamp. Troyes lost again. Oh dear, bless them. Diego Roland scoring twice. Diabate and Mavinga own goal. Formerly of Liverpool, I think I'm not mistaken, or Chelsea, one of the two. That's 4-2 victory for Bordeaux. The goals back from Benjamin Nive, who I think is nearly 40 now, and Quarantine John, but Troyes are going with a bit of a whimper. Caen 0, Bastia 0. Nothing to say about that game. It was terrible. And Marseille, they have a win. First win in 3 months. Yes, 3 months. Under their caretaker coach, they won away at Angers by 1-0. Michy Batshuayi with the goal. And speaking of Angers, just very quickly, there was a game played in midweek which ended Lille 0, Angers 0. So that's one just to bring you up from the midweek. Shall I go into the table? Well, PSG, as we know, have won the league. That's all sorted. They're on for a decent points total. 89 at the moment. They're clear. But Lyon, second, 36 played, 62 points. Monaco, third, 36 games played, 62 points. St Etienne, 58 points from their 36. Nice, 57 from their 36. Lille, still not out of it, 56 from their 36. So those probably 6 are the ones that are vying for those European spots. And you've got Rennes, Angers, Nantes, Caen making up the top 10. Down at the bottom, Troyes, as we know, are gone. Toulouse, 34 points in the second relegation spot. Ram are still down there in the third relegation spot on 36. Gazalek just about above it on 37. And then Lorient, oh dear, 16th, 43 points, as are Guingamp. Both those two should be safe now. It's looking like a bit of a Premier League scrap at the bottom. It's going to be 1 from 2, I would suggest.
Oh, very good. Have you got any news for us this week?
Not really. Sofiane Boufal has been ruled out for the season with injury, so he's not going to play again this season. It's probably going to be his last game for Lille because it looks like he's going to be sold.
That's not good.
That's the only real bit of news. But
have you got a game for us to watch next week as well?
I'll give you a game. Yes, I can indeed. It's obvious, but Lyon against Monaco. It's those top 2, and whoever wins it, I've got a funny feeling it'll be a draw. But it's if I had to put money on it, I'd say Lyon are the favourites, unbeaten in their home stadium. It's on Saturday at 8 p.m, and all of Ligue 1's games are on Saturday at 8 p.m, so you can follow along if you have nothing better to do.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I think that's Liga all wrapped up, so I'll hand back over to you.
I thank you very much. Right, let us move on then to another league and see what is going on in Spain this week. And we're off to La Liga. Righty ho then, Tom. So let's check in with La Liga. We just heard about how tight Liga is becoming, or La Liga's title race is another week in the books, so to speak. And let's see where things stand. But before we do that, you want to just touch on the relegation end of things, because that's equally tight. So we're going to start with Sporting Gijón, who had a game against Eibar to kick off the weekend. So how did it go?
Yeah, they did. They're Sporting off the back of 2 wins in their last 3, and really needed to continue that form, considering the other relegation strugglers have also been picking up form in recent weeks. Eibar haven't won in their last 3, and that definitely continued in this game. Johnny's cross found Carmona's head in the 43rd minute, and Riefko couldn't get enough of a hand on it to prevent it going in, and that made it 1-0 in the first half. Eibar did have a number of chances during the game to level. They hit the post and had a couple of shots that went wide and over, but then some terrible defending in the later stages of the game, the 82nd minute, allowed the creator of the first goal, Johnny, to run through and seal those highly important 3 points to make it 2-0. So Sporting look like they're on a bit of a run, and hopefully will be safe, because they're a team I like, and especially their stadium and their kit, and I think they've played some great football this season, and they do deserve to stay up.
Sorry, I do apologise. I was stuck on mute there. Joys of modern technology. I was just saying what a good result that was for Gijón, and obviously much needed. Speaking of teams that needed a result, that brings us on to Granada. They played Las Palmas, who I've decided are going to be friends of the pod as well, because I like them. And this was a bit topsy-turvy.
Yes, it produced one of the maddest first 22 minutes of a game I've seen. Jonathan Vieira has been great for Las Palmas this season. Put the Islanders 1-0 up inside 3 minutes, picked up the ball on the left-hand side of the box and curled a beautiful shot into the top right-hand corner. And that made it 1-0. And then Mesa chipped over the Granada defence, and Jonathan Vieira was there again to make it 2-0. And then Granada decided they wanted to play again, and Rashina got Granada back in the game only a minute after the second Las Palmas goal. He hit a low cross goal shot past Raul Lijuan and got the 2-1. Then on the 22nd minute, as I say, maddest 22 minutes I've seen in La Liga this season, just after Araujo had hit the bar, who could have made it 3-1 for Las Palmas, El Arabi headed home the equaliser to make it 2-2. And then El Arabi nearly made it 3-2, hitting the post and nearly rolling in the goal, but Raul claimed it and clawed it away. But then Granada did go on to eventually win the game. It was Ricardo Costa heading in from Rashina's corner 20 minutes from time, and that is an absolutely massive win, especially considering Las Palmas have been in decent form recently, and Granada haven't been that great. They recorded a 5-1 victory against Levante recently, but they haven't had much to shout about, so they're definitely putting their hand in the pile to make their... I don't really know where I'm going with this, but just to say that they're going to stay up, but yeah.
Tied in knots.
Yes.
I know the feeling. Speaking of tied in knots, that brings us nicely onto Sevilla's away form, which, as an Espanyol follower, you'd have been pretty confident that they could get results against Sevilla, seeing as you were the home side. Did it pan out that way?
Yeah, so it was a win would have taken Espanyol to the magical 40-point mark. And at home, as you say, against Sevilla, the side haven't won away all season. And bearing in mind they have a Europa League game in midweek, so that means they put out quite a weak side. And Espanyol started off the better team, as I sort of expected they would do. Victor Sanchez got a couple of early shots in. The first one was a long-range effort, which just missed the Sevilla corner of the goal and went and hit the side netting. And then the second half, Sanchez came close again, heading across straight onto the post, and Sergio Rico was very fortunate that that didn't go in, because he was really quite scrambling. Espanyol finally did get their goal though in the 52nd minute, and it was rather fortunate. Asensio hit a long range strike which was pushed onto the post by Sergio Rico and found very fortunately at the feet of Caicedo, the Ecuadorian, who then finished in an easy goal quite happily to take away 3 points. And all I have to say about the game is that Sevilla offered absolutely nothing. They didn't have Gamero. Konoplyanka came on later, and Zonzi also, and you'd expect them all to return for the game in midweek. So I think prediction-wise for the Europa League, I can see them going through. The 2-2 away at Shakhtar is a very good result, and the away goals will be huge. But I can see them reaching another final.
Absolutely. I wonder if Crone Daly has found his kneecap yet. That was
Don't.
that was not pleasant. If you are of a nervous disposition, don't look at my timeline from last week where there is a video of it. Anywho, just quickly before we move on to our final game of the roundup, Martin Morgan asked us a question on Felipe Caicedo. He simply said, "Is he any good? Because he's a beast on FIFA." I seem to remember him being at Man City briefly.
Yeah, he was.
How's he doing for Espanyol then?
Well, that was his 8th league goal of the season, which really isn't enough. The thing with Caicedo is he has a lot of injury issues, and he's more of a physical guy. He's not very fast, and he relies on poaching goals like he did in the game against Sevilla. If I'm honest, we need an upgrade on him because he isn't good enough for where the likes of the ambitions of the club, which have got massive revenue coming in next season, want to go. So I will expect him to be replaced in the summer.
We shall see. I know a couple of Liga sides that will probably have a punt on a physical forward, so you never know. Okay, let's go on to our final game of the roundup then, before we just quickly touch on the title race, because I know everyone wants to know about it anyway. Deportivo, I watched this game on Sunday evening. They had a home tie against Getafe, which, looking at the table, you'd have thought, Deportivo, 1 win, takes them past the 40-point mark, they should be fine. And then...
Yeah, it was a game where they really shot themselves in the foot. And Getafe have really found some form in recent weeks, winning 2 and drawing 1 of the last 3 matches. And Depor have failed to win in their last 5 matches. So although the table may lie a bit here with the form table in comparison, but I really didn't expect the result that turned round. Depor did start off the better side. Former Liverpool striker Luis Alberto set an early effort just wide of the post, but then Getafe began to use some of their new passing nous that they've learned from their new manager Juan Esneda, which found Pedro Leon on the right-hand side of the box, cut inside into his left foot and slammed a low shot past Manu in the goal to make it 1-0. And then Depor found themselves shooting themselves the foot, as I say. Borges recklessly receiving a second yellow, just kicking out, really didn't need to when he was getting nowhere near getting near the ball, and that sent Depor down to 10. Naturally, then this sent Getafe on a search for their second goal, and it did come in the 85th minute. Vigaray flicked on Pedro Leon's near post corner into the goal, and that sealed all 3 points for Getafe, and that is huge now. Winning 3 of their last 4 matches is a massive turnaround under the new manager.
That Celso Borges red card, that was utterly stupid, because they were just on top as well at one. You could see them getting level, and then he shot himself in the foot. What a pillock. Anyway, never mind. Just before we go on to, we can tie this in if you like. Give us the other results and just bring us up to speed on where the top 3 are, because I know everyone wants to know who's going to win this league. Yeah.
So the title race is basically, bottom line is, if all the teams win, Barcelona win the league. But the thing is, if you want to win the league and you're any of those teams, you have to win all the matches. Did that happen this round? Well, Real Madrid had to wait until the 80th minute to get their win and rely on another Bale winner away to Sociedad, and they were without the likes of Benzema and Ronaldo, who are still recovering, and we still don't know whether they'll be in line to play at home to Man City in midweek. Atletico needed to substitute Griezmann to come on in the 55th minute to get their 3 points at home to Rayo Vallecano, and Barca had an also very nervous trip away at Betis. They did come out 2-0 winners with Rakitic and Suarez getting both goals, but Westermann's 35th minute red card definitely sent them on the way to those 3 points. So yeah, they've all won again, and it's going into the last few matches now, and it's hotting up. But with the likes of Real Madrid and Atleti playing Champions League, I think my money is definitely on Barca to retain the title again. Elsewhere though, Bilbao got back on track at home to Celta Vigo, winning 2-1. Orellana put Vigo 1 up, but an Adariz penalty and then a Raul Garcia goal after Cabral was sent off for Vigo saw them get the win. In the battle of the V's, Villarreal got an impressive 2-0 win away at Valencia. Samuel and Adrian's first half strikes sent Valencia down to another loss, which is their first in their last 5 matches after they picked up a bit of form. Malaga sent Levante steaming towards a certain relegation. Chop's 30th minute goal was cancelled out by Morales' 42nd minute equaliser, but the 2 late goals from Chop and Castro in the 89th and 90th minute got them all 3 points, and that basically means that Levante are down.
Oh dear. So yes, things are starting to get sorted out. And just quickly, who's the big 3 got next week?
That was going to be in my next match of next week, but I can do it now. That's fine.
I'll hand it over.
So Barcelona have got my match of the week, which I think is the one you should watch, which is the Catalan derby against Espanyol. So definitely, they're all on Sunday and they're all at 4:00, and none of them are on Sky Sports. So it's not going to be a fun weekend for me. And then Atletico Madrid are away to Levante, so you got to think they would get 3 points there. And Real Madrid are at home to Valencia. I know I've just lost, but they have been picking in form recently, so a little bit tough. But again, I think all three teams will win. So there is that.
Absolutely. And we should say, not that we promote gambling on this podcast, but if you do live in the UK, or indeed a country that doesn't have gambling bans, if you have a popular betting site associated with Stoke City, Bet365, you can put a small amount of money into an account and never ever place a bet in your life and watch all La Liga games and all Serie A games and all Liga games for nothing. So there's a little tip for you if you didn't already know. There you go. Sorted. Right. Okay. Anything else? Any news at all? Anything you want to bring up?
I'll give you the table if you want it.
Oh, we'll have that. Yeah, we'll have that.
Well, the top six is going as Barca on 85, Atleti 85, Real 84. No change whatsoever. Villarreal's win against Valencia up in fourth in 64 points have secured them Champions League for next season with their head-to-head record against Bilbao enough to secure that. Bilbao are in fifth on 58, 6 points behind, and they have overtaken Vigo, who dropped to sixth on 57 points. So the real race is for who's going to get Europa place between them and Sevilla, who have really dropped down a bit now. The bottom six is Levante, as I say, pretty much down 29 points. Rayo on 35 in 19th. Getafe and Sporting and Granada have all gone above them. The latter two on 35 and Granada on 36. Depor on 39 still. There is a possibility they could get down if all those teams win and they lose both their games. It's unlikely, but you never know.
Interesting. So it is all getting tight. Any news?
But there's rumours around saying Guillaume Balaguer came out and said that he doesn't expect Griezmann to go anywhere in this summer, so that's good news for Atleti. But bad news for Atleti is that there's news that Simeone is pretty much destined for Inter Milan. So, John, you'll love that one.
Watch this space. And also bad news for Gareth Bale's hairline this week. And you can see those pictures. And trust me, I've suffered with similar, and it sucks. Alopecia, it's a nasty thing. Anyway, let's move away from hairlines and take a trip to another league then, shall we? And Drew, I want to come to you and see what's been going on in Germany. And it's this week's Bundesliga. Right then, Drew. So let's see what's been going on in Germany. I want to start with a team that are already relegated. They are Hanover. They played host to Schalke, who are just totally bipolar. How did this one end up? We know Hanover have gone, but how's Schalke's push for Champions League going?
I just want to ask, did you just call me Andrew?
Did I? I didn't
no
mean
one
to.
ever does that except my grandmother. I'm shocked.
Oh,
you know what's even worse is that Kris said hairline going to the German section and didn't use the joke Fraulein.
Could have done, couldn't I? Anyway, John, let Andrew continue.
Well, it was must win for Schalke. As we've spoken about, for the last month, 2 months, that they're in a dogfight for Europa League, even Champions League, and they paid a visit to bottom feeders Hanover, who up until this match actually got results 3 in a row, but Schalke actually won 3-1 away from home. Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting opened the scoring on 11 minutes, but then Arthur Schulbeis actually leveled 10 minutes after that. But then Klaus-Jan Huntelaar restored the lead right just before halftime, and then Alessandro Schopf made it 3-1 on 80 minutes, and that was it. But it's interesting because Hanover, technically, up until, I don't know, if I do the math, maybe up until this match, or was the match before that, they mathematically weren't out of it. And it's funny, without pressure, they got those results. And it was Schalke that we have seen they've usually stumbled, especially in matches like this where sides they should be beating, they struggled. That's been reflected all year long with them. But they played well, and they got some key performances, especially out of Leon Goretzka, who he's been touted by a lot of people to have big things, big future. But like Schalke, he's been night and day. Certain instances he's been brilliant, others he's been non-existent. But he was actually fantastic. He only got an assist, but his general play and controlling the center of park, I think that it's worth noting that. And I actually, when I spoke with you, I nominated him for the team of the week because his performance was such. I feel like if he wasn't there, I don't know if Schalke actually would have gotten a result, despite the fact that he only contributed to one of the goals. But he was fantastic. Pressure still on Schalke. They still sit sixth. They can either miss out on Europe or they can even get Champions League depending on the results that happen around them. So, but they got the result that they needed, and 2 more to go. So they'll have to take it one match at a time. But next weekend is absolutely crucial for them, just like basically everybody else around them as well. So.
Absolutely. And I heard a little rumour that after I compared the two, that Roberto Martinez apparently is being lined up to replace Brighton writer, which I thought was quite funny after we mentioned that last week, but still watch this space on that one. Let's move on to Mainz, who faced Hamburg. Probably a bigger game for Hamburg than it was for Mainz, but it didn't exactly live up to expectations, did it?
I don't know if it's necessarily a bigger match for Hamburg than Mainz. Mainz are still in with every chance to actually get European qualification next season. Again, they can pip for the fourth Champions League spot. I know John would be rather perturbed and annoyed if they did, but they have a chance at that, and they can still get Europa League. So I think it's a big match for both. And Mainz have they've been slipping a lot. They've only won one in their last 6, and at home against a Hamburg side who. Maybe some people would expect a little bit more from them this season, but the way they played last season, probably you'd say that maybe overachieving this season. But still have some decent players in certain areas. But Mainz started at home, and it was a 0-0 draw, and I think Martin Schmidt's gonna be a little disappointed. Yunus Mali didn't start yet again. He's back though. He came off the bench, didn't really feature all that well. So again, they're not getting enough from. Players I've mentioned before in previous weeks, like Paulo de Blasis, Yaris Imperio, John Cordoba. Those are types of players where, in the absence of Mali, they all have to step up, and they really haven't. They look good at the back, all across the back four. Loris Karius looked good again, but they're not scoring enough goals. Mali didn't play. Yoshino Muto's still out. So it seems like without those two players, either playing or in any amount of form, they struggle, and that's not good considering. Again, a lot of their luck this season, they have to make their own luck, but also they're going to need some help around them for other teams to drop points. But I don't know if we're going to see another sort of magical, improbable run that we saw like Augsburg last season. I don't know if Mainz will do it. They still have a chance, but disappointing for them for this result. I think they should have got 3 points.
Agreed, yeah. There was a really good one-on-one chance as well that was missed. I think it was from Hamburg, actually, and just a bizarre result. They always look like a side that should do so much more to me, but that's just me. Never mind, moving on. Let's talk about Darmstadt and Eintracht Frankfurt. I want Eintracht Frankfurt to stay up. I've been saying this for ages.
You have your bias?
Just because they've got Alex Meyer, and he's awesome. But they got a massive 3 points, and they did it from behind. Do you put this down to the change of manager? Is Niko Kovac suddenly a god?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say he was a god, but they have looked good last weekend and the weekend before that. So they've won 2 in a row, and as you say, this was a crucial result. Not just because they need the 3 points to, it sees them go up level on points with Stuttgart, but now they're in the playoff spot instead of guaranteed relegation. But also, Darmstadt are sitting right above them. 2 points ahead on 35. So if Eintracht loses this match, the gap between Darmstadt and Eintracht might then become insurmountable. Not mathematically, but maybe unlikely in regards to form and such. So that's why it's huge. They keep themselves in the race to stay up. They got the 3 points when it mattered. And Darmstadt are they're a little bit tricky to play. They don't score a ton of goals. Obviously, their back four isn't the greatest. But up until 2 weeks ago, they were in a bit of form. They had 2 draws, 2 losses. 2 draws and 2 wins, and then they lost their last 2. So dip in form at the wrong time for the newly promoted side. But Eintracht are doing enough at the moment. I wouldn't even say Kovac is necessarily doing a ton tactically that's making them better, but sometimes you just need a fresh face. We saw it Hoffenheim with Nagelsmann. But I think Nagelsmann's doing a little bit more than Niko Kovac is actually doing. But the players seem a little bit refreshed. Certain players are now stepping up. Makoto Hasebi's looked much better. Szabolcs Hutsi has, he came in January. He's looked a little bit improved. Lucas Verdecki actually saved a penalty, which actually would have put. I'm trying to read this. Yeah, actually, Darmstadt would have been 2-0 up if he didn't save it, and that could have actually been 3 points lost right there. So key save from him, and they converted the chances when they could, and when you're in a position like that, that's all you can really expect from your players. So again, like half the league, they're gonna have to take it one match at a time. But this is the result that they definitely needed, so it's not over for them just yet. But I still don't know if they'll necessarily avoid the drop, so we'll see.
Amen. Forza Frankfurt. Right, our final game is on the Sunday. On the Saturday, I should say, the Saturday evening. Bayer Leverkusen hosting Hertha BSC, or Hertha Berlin, whichever you prefer. Crucial victory for Bayer Leverkusen, which I think I'm right in saying secures Champions League spot. Hertha, unfortunately, it appears that they're not, at the moment, on their current form, are not going to make Champions League. So Bayer, safe, good game?
Bayern are safe. The air points clear of Gladbach, so yes, they're guaranteed that third automatic Champions League spot. So I know we said way back in the pod it had to have been December or January. Someone asked who would I see finishing in third and fourth spot, and I said Leverkusen had a chance if their players started performing. And in the last month and a half, all those players have performed. Actually, Bayern are now the in-form side in the Bundesliga. And that's what you want to see from a team who do have the quality that they have. Unfortunately for Hertha, they're in a bit of a nosedive right now. They haven't won. They've only won once in their last 6. 3 losses in a row. Wrong timing. And I know I mentioned on one of the previous pods that this might speak to a little bit of their inexperience from a lot of their players. They've done well for the majority of the season, but early on in the season, early doors, you're not under pressure. And now that the pressure's piled on, other teams around them started winning more consistently, especially the likes of Bayer Leverkusen, and Gladbach's always been there once they turned it around after their poor season start. So I think the events of the last maybe month and a half have actually kind of gotten to them. It's disappointing because you like to see like a special story, but their key performers have stopped performing. Salomon Kalou didn't feature well in this match. Sandro Weiser didn't have a good match. Sebastian Landkap was uncharacteristically very poor this match as well. So and these are players that they've relied on all season long. So, same looks like as Persily and Skelbert. He didn't do well either. Vidal Ibisevic did claw one goal back after Lars Bender went 2-0 and Julian Brandt got the opener just on 2 minutes. So, Hertha going 2-0 down inside 20 minutes is something you wouldn't have ever seen in the first half of the season. So I do think this is more of a mental stutter that has then transferred over into, playing form. But take nothing away from Leverkusen, they're getting results time and time again. And again, key performers keep showing up. And special shout out to Lars Bender, who played right back and got himself on the score sheet. He bagged the winner. So good performance from a man who has made his career playing, holding midfielder. So, but yeah, kudos to Roger Schmidt's men. They deserve third place for sure.
You'll be happy to know I've rewarded Lars Bender with a place on the bench in Team of the Week. So there you go. I couldn't get him into the main Team of the Week because I played one of John's favourites, a back 3. So I had to put him on the bench. But, he made it. So it's all good. Good result that is for Leverkusen and good for them for Champions League qualification. Right. What were the other results from the weekend's action?
In the Friday match, Augsburg hosted Cologne and ended up 0-0 despite Cologne having a man sent off. Hoffenheim won 2-1 at home. Bayern, as John said, Bayern and Gladbach drew 1-1. Dortmund absolutely throttled Wolfsburg 5-1 at home. And then earlier, actually, Werder Bremen spanked Stuttgart 6-2 in a match where you would assume goals would be scored, but I didn't expect 8, and I certainly didn't expect Bremen to drop 6, considering they've really only, they've scored 49. That's not really numbers you'd expect from a side who's been, again, like most teams this season, night and day. But yeah. And as regards to that, so the table, Bayern top. Because of their draw, they cannot be confirmed as champions just yet. So by slimmer of hope, still there, but I don't think it's going to happen. Dortmund second, 5 points back on 77. Leverkusen third on 57. Gladbach and Hertha tied for fourth on 49. Schalke 6th on 48. Mainz 7th on 46. Eintracht Frankfurt 16th on 33. Tied with Stuttgart on 33, actually. And then Hanover bottom on 22. And yes, they won't be avoiding the drop. So there you go.
Gone. I think I'm right in saying as well, but I think Freiburg got promoted this week from the Bundesliga 2, so I believe they're coming back to the Bundesliga next year.
That's good to see them back.
Good to see them, absolutely. And if you haven't seen the highlights of the 6-2 game Werder and Stuttgart, which was played earlier on this evening at time of recording, do look them up. Fantastic. If for nothing else, look up the Federico Barber own goal. It was a thing of beauty. It really was. Crazy game. Which game are you picking out to keep an eye on for next week, highlight-wise?
Stuttgart, Mainz. Both are in positions where 3 points is the absolute requirement. Stuttgart need to avoid relegation, and Mainz need to get themselves back on track if they want to finish in Europe. So I would say Gladbach Leverkusen just for entertainment value, but Leverkusen have nothing to play for at this point. So yeah.
Good stuff. Tune in for that one then. And still got a feeling Darmstadt are going to be the ones that drop down, but we shall see. Right then. So that wraps up all things German for another week. So just the one league to go. And John, I'm looking at you. We'll go across to Italy and find out what's been going on this week in Serie A. Okay, John, let's start with a game that produced quite a lot of goals, and it was probably, I think it's safe to say, a result that leaves Udinese in a little bit of trouble, because Torino turned up at their ground and hit them for 5.
It was the reason I picked it out, really. Not so much the amount of goals, but more the result and what it means for Udinese. It was an absolute thumping. Belotti had a goal disallowed within 5 minutes, wrongly disallowed for offside. That shouldn't have been. But it was Janssen who got the scoring starting for Torino. A really good bullet header from a corner. And then Afriakwa scored the second just before half time. So Udinese 2-0 down. They weren't playing bad, looked okay. But then second half as well, they even pulled a goal back. Felipe Diaz scored a looping header from a corner. So it was looking all right for them. They had a chance, but then Torino just turned it on. Martinez scored a really good goal, got put through and did the sort of now famous Ronaldo chop onto the wrong foot, sending the defender or 2 defenders the wrong way and the keeper, curled it into the bottom corner. Then your favourite Belotti finally did get a goal. He carried the ball from the edge of his own 18-yard box past, I think it was 4 Udinese players, the whole way on his own, and scored a great goal. I think he's got I think it's 12 goals he's got now this season, but I think 11 of them have come this year, so he's really making a push for that Italian squad. Martinez added a 5th. Belotti did score another, but that was also ruled this time correctly for offside. So he could have had a hat-trick on the day, but for Udinese it's really worrying because some of the other results around them at the bottom, it puts them in a bit of trouble. So for a team that I thought would probably be safe, it's not looking good. And they also got some not great news, or perhaps not surprising news, but I'll come to that later on about a certain legend of a player leaving.
Yes, we'll definitely come back to that. 11 of his 12 Belotti have come since February of this year.
That's it.
So,
there we go.
Bang in form. And also should be said, the Venezuelan Joseph Martinez, he had a storm in that game as well.
Yeah, very good.
Superb. All right, let's move on to another team then and put the focus on Juventus. We know that they're champions, so it's probably more about Carpi really in this game. They didn't get any points from it, but spirited performance. They certainly didn't disgrace themselves.
Yeah, no, they played really well. I mean, most of this week is sort of focusing on the teams down the bottom. And Carpi came into this, they were unbeaten in the last 3. Juve had already won the title, and there was always that chance of maybe they're not going to turn up. Allegri brought in a few more players, rotated some in, like Hernandez, who had been out of favour for a while, came back into the squad. And Juve ended up winning 2-0, but it wasn't by any means comfortable. Hernandez actually got his first goal for Juve. And it was one of his sort of, anyone who's watched him before, one of his trademark sort of long-range finishes from the edge of the box, just really well controlled. And he did his lovely backflip celebration. Simone Zatza, another one of my favourites, scored the second goal for Juve in the second half for a header from a corner. But I was really impressed with Carpi and how, despite the fact you're going to the Champions, you're going to the J Stadium, you're a team that everyone expects to be relegated, they still performed so well. And that performance, I think, will actually give them some confidence. That their best effort probably came from long range shot from Belic, who completely. Buffon didn't even move for the ball. Really long range strike outside of the boot that curled and nearly crept back inside the post. Put on a plate for him by Kevin Lasagna. But
that was terrible. Seriously,
I've been thinking of that one all day. But yeah, no points obviously for Carpi, but a good spirited performance, and they can certainly take that on to the next game. It must also be said as well, obviously Juve celebrating. There's been lots of videos of them. Leonardo Bonucci has got a fantastic moustache that he's fashioned for himself just in celebration. That's worth looking up alone.
it is. It's a thing of beauty, has to be said. It really is quite something. So unlucky for Carpi, but we'll move on to another club that are also down there and fighting for their lives, and that's Frosinone, who took a trip to Milan, who all of a sudden have turned into the Milan of old. I don't quite know what's going on there, but they seem to just be totally bat-poo crazy. 3-3. What a game. You don't get games like this in Serie A. What's going on?
Yeah, it was amazing. Frosinone was so impressive from the start. They scored within a minute. Paganini hitting a great strike from 18 yards out into the bottom corner, and Donnarumma didn't have a chance for it, and the San Siro was completely stunned. I mean, they've not been happy with the performances for quite a while, and obviously Brocchi has come in from the youth team now as manager, and it hasn't gone great for him since he's taken over. The second goal, though, Krugel, who scored absolutely stunning free kick. It was a direct free kick from 35, 40 yards out maybe, and you thought, okay, well, it's obviously direct free kick, it's got to go towards the goal, and he's just going to chip it in. They lined it all up, but he absolutely levered it, and it was perfect. Roberto Carlos-esque, maybe. It just a really amazing goal. And Milan were just completely stunned. They just did not know what to do. Things got worse as well. Was in the second half. They were awarded a penalty early on. Upsets Balotelli, who's actually been in fairly good form for Milan, and obviously he's got a great record of penalties. But he actually saw it saved by Bardi, who was brilliant throughout the game for Frosinone, really amazing. Milan got one back through Carlos Bacca, nice tapping at the near post with a good pullback from Abate. Dionisi then gave Frosinone, restored their 2-goal lead, robbing Alex of the ball at the back. I don't know what he was trying to do, whether he was trying to clear it or make a back pass for Donnarumma, but yeah, just pounced on that. But then Luca Antonelli then scored an almost more brilliant goal than the free kick. Not renowned for goal scoring, but corner came in, Alex headed it down, Antonelli then chested it up in the air and bicycle kicked it into the roof of the net, which is quite some achievement. So it was a very strange game. It finished 3-3. The last goal, was Milan awarded another penalty. Both of them actually good decisions. But this time Menez stepped up and scored the penalty. Milan are in a mess, and they really need to sort things out. They don't know what's going on with the owner, whether they're going to be sold. There's now talk of different investors coming in. Yet again, Berlusconi's still not sure if he wants to be owner. The fans want him out and Galliani out as well. Frosinone now they're not mathematically gone, but they could be, and they're going to feel like the team who've been hard done by here, because being 3-1 up at the San Siro and then losing it and only getting a point is a disappointing result, but still a very good performance. So they've got a chance, but it's very, very slim.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And a subplot that I took from this, the goalkeeper for Frosinone, Bardi, I think I'm right in saying was an ex-Inter goalkeeper. I'm sure he was on Inter's books. I think he was at Espanyol for a season, so I don't think he ever played. I'm sure he went to Spain, but yeah.
Yeah, he had a great game. Really
it's
impressive.
Weird how that happens, isn't it? Like Inter keeper and denies Milan, but yeah. Milan in mess, shocker. Never heard that before, have we? Speaking of teams in a mess, that brings us to our final game, which is Palermo. There are 9 manager changes in all. Firstly, have they changed coach this week? And secondly, did they get a win?
As of recording, they have not changed coach, but of course that could be different by the time you've heard this. But they did record a win. I said that it would be bizarre if they got themselves out of it after all the mess that's been going on there this season, but they seem to have finally kind of got some team spirit going. They got a 2-0 win against Samp. The game itself was rather dull, but Ranocchia, the ex-Inter Milan captain, put himself in a complete mess at the back for Samp and allowed Gilardino to rob the ball off him, who laid it off for Vasquez, Paulo Dybala's old friend, and who got a nice comfortable finish. And then Palermo didn't get the second until last 5 minutes from time. This time Vasquez trying to repay the favour to Gilardino, but it was actually Kristicic who got there first, scoring an own goal. So not great for him, but Palermo just all of a sudden turned it round and look like they might actually get out of it. It'll be amazing if they do. But yeah, just all the teams at the bottom just throwing up some amazing results. And Palermo, I think, as I said last week, have got the better running of the last two games. So they've got a real chance of getting themselves out of there. So yeah, just amazing result. They just keep doing it now. So yeah, maybe Zamparini, you might have to suffer another season of him and mad sackings next year.
Living the dream. And you'd be happy to know that Vasquez made the team of the week this week on the bench as well. One of three from Serie A in the
Very
team.
good.
So there we go. Happy days. Right, let's catch up with all of the results then, including those two games played today.
Yeah, Chievo versus Fiorentina and Empoli versus Bologna were both 0-0 draws. Lazio beat Inter 2-0. Less said about that, the better. Sassuolo got a 1-0 win over already relegated Verona. Napoli beat Atalanta 2-1. Another 2 goals for Higuain. That's just 32 in Serie A alone this year. Roma played a fantastic game against Genoa. 2-3. Roma won that. Totti coming off the bench yet again and scoring yet again. So the table now, as it stands, at the top, as we know, Juve champions on 88 points, and then it's Napoli in second on 76, Roma in third on 74. Inter have now lost all chance for Champions League spot. They are fourth on 64 and 4 points ahead of Fiorentina on 60. Down at the bottom, Verona already relegated on 25. Frosinone in 19th place on 31. Mathematically not out of it yet, but it's looking very tough. Palermo at 18th on 35. Carpi, same points, but a goal difference. And Udinese just above them on 38. So that's Udinese could yet be dragged into it.
Yes, yeah, they are falling like a stone. One quick question before we get the news. Inter's game with Lazio, couldn't help but noticing it was an empty stadium game. Or, well, they always say that, and there's always about 1,000 people in there, but it was very much not full. What was the reason behind that?
At the Olimpico,
Yes.
there's the I don't know what I can't remember the Italian word for it, but essentially the captain of the police sort of thing of Rome made a ruling earlier in the season that the Curva Nord and the Curva Sud, basically where the ultras would stand for either Roma or Lazio, it will be partitioned from the separate areas of the stadium with sort of those plastic screens that you sometimes see. To keep the fan section separated, and essentially the ultras were not happy with this, saying that they don't cause as much problems as they make out, and it ruins the atmosphere, and they have boycotted the home games all season. And that's both. You very obviously rarely get Roma and Lazio fans agreeing on anything, but they've both done that. And they've been doing it for quite a while this season. There's still serious issues there, and there's going to have to be some sort of compromise because obviously both teams are losing revenue, and it doesn't look very good on the TV screens.
No, it shows how much I know because I hadn't noticed it because I suppose Lazio haven't been on TV very much. But
They very carefully position the cameras in the correct angles to try not to show it.
that was really bizarre, very bizarre atmosphere. But never mind. Inter, yeah, less said the better. Right, you touched on some news about a certain legend at Udinese that might be on the off. I think I know what's coming. It's upsetting.
Yes, Toto, Antonio Di Natale, for those who don't know his nickname, he's leaving Udinese at the end of the season. He's not retiring. There's no confirmation of where he's off to play yet. By the sounds of it, he still wants to play in Serie A because he still wants to break Miazza's record and become the fourth all-time highest goal scorer in Serie A. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of clubs looking for him. But yeah, he is leaving Udinese. He's currently on 226 goals in 439 games. That's just for Udinese, by the way. So amazing record he's had there. Really loved. He's one of those players that I think fans of all clubs in Serie A have loved watching him, and he just scores amazing goals. And I hope to see him in Serie A again next season. Hopefully he can break that record.
Strikes me as if he could do something like Luca Toni did for Verona, join a lesser club and just get a few goals.
Yeah, I get the suspicion that if Carpi or someone like that stays up, then maybe they'll try and go in for him, or one of the teams that maybe comes up, see if they can do that.
absolutely. Yeah, Di Natale and lasagna combo. I can see that. That'd be lovely. Super. Okay, so where are we with regards to placings?
I just gave you the table. It's terrible, listeners.
Sorry,
Never pays attention.
placings. I meant games. Sorry, you wanted to pick a
Yes,
game out.
yeah, the game for next week. I picked out Frosinone versus Sassuolo. Big for both teams. Frosinone need a win. Basically, anything but a win will see them down. And Sassuolo, if they can get the points, then they can confirm themselves in Europe next season.
Super. I was looking at the word placings. That's why I said. Why I didn't say just game? I don't know. See, this is what happens when you try and do two things at once and you're a man. It doesn't work. Okay, super. Right. Well, that brings us to a close for our weekly roundup. Then only a couple of weeks of fixtures to go, and it's all going to end. And we'll leave you alone for the summer. No, we won't. We'll do a Euros podcast. We wouldn't leave you in the lurch. Right. Let's take another little trip around up before we go on to our next segment, and we're going to have a little bit of a check on two other leagues, and it's this week's best of the rest. Okay, a couple of leagues to pick up on, and I'm going to start in Portugal because everyone wants to know how Portugal is getting on because it's quite a tight league and it's still tight. It's a 2-horse race now, not 3 anymore because it was three-horse race for quite a while, but it's now down to 2, Benfica and Sporting. One of the two are going to win this league. We still don't know who yet. Probably Benfica, but it's not assured. Benfica got a victory, 1-0 victory over Vitor Guimarães on Friday night. Jardel with the goal. Andre Almeida was sent off late on, but it didn't affect them, so they got the win. And luckily for Sporting, they responded with a magnificent 3-1 victory at Porto. Goals 2 for Slimani, who's having the season of his life, and Bruno Cesar with the late goal. Hector Herrera getting a penalty equaliser at the time for Porto. But another defeat. If you haven't seen it, do look out for Iker Casillas' absolute. Well, you'll see. It wasn't the best. It's weird. He makes one world-class save, and then the very next attack, he drops one in his own net. Terrible. Quite how he's going to be Spain's number one is beyond me in the summer, but we shall see. So that leaves the 2-horse race. 82 points for Benfica, Sporting 80 points. Porto back in third on 67. A lot of change for them this summer, I think. Sporting Braga and Arouca are in the UEFA Europa League qualification spots. Sporting Braga getting a victory this weekend, 3-2 over Vitória Setúbal, and Arouca, they in fact, I don't think they even played. Yes, they did. They won 3-0 at Nacional. Couldn't find them for a minute, so they kept up their victory. So it looks like those two are going to be the two in those places. Paços de Ferreira and 6 have still got to say. Down at the bottom, Académica and Tondela. Not quite mathematically gone, I don't think, but it's very close because they're both on 24 points and they're 5 points adrift of the teams above them. So I think those are going to be the two that go. And just quickly, in the Swiss Super League, we have champions Basel. I think I'm right in saying, John, you might be able to correct me on this, I think it's their 7th straight title, I think I'm right in saying.
Something ridiculous like that. I know they were so many points in front and the title was sewn up fairly early.
Yes, yeah, well, it's definitely sewn up. 16 points clear, 31 matches played, 76 points. They got the victory they needed with a 2-1 victory over Sion. Delgado and Bjarnason with the goals. Salatic with a late goal back for Sion wasn't enough. So Basel are the champions. Young Boys of Bern are second on 60 points. They're likely to stay there. So that means UEFA Champions League qualification rounds for them. Good on them. They won 2-1 at Grasshopper. Arave and Bertone with the goals. And in the UEFA Europa League spots, you've got Grasshopper who won 2-0 over St. Gallen. Tabakovic and De Boer with the goals for them. And Sion, FC Sion, despite that defeat at Basel, it looks like they're good for that 4th place spot, although Luzern, only 3 points back, will have a say on it. Lugano, who, for those Arsenal fans listening, was Nelson Vivas's club before he joined Arsenal. Fun fact, it looks like they are likely to go down, although it is tight at the bottom because they're only 2 points from safety. In fact, a point from safety and 2 points from 8th, so they might just do it. We shall see. So that's where the Swiss League comes in, and looking ahead of time, next week the Dutch Eredivisie wraps up. We will be across it next week, so stay tuned for see who wins the title. Right, okay, that brings a close to our little whip around the leagues as per usual. So we'll move on and we'll go into this week's Hipsters Choice. Okay, this week, completely outside of the box. I was looking at the Europa League games the other week, and I thought, we haven't done a player a little bit out of the box for quite a while. So let's have a little trip in and see what we can pull out. And I've decided to go to the Ukraine because this week's Hipster's Choice is from Shakhtar Donetsk, and it's Viktor Kovalenko. So what do we know about this gentleman? Well, he was born on February the 14th, 1996. That's Valentine's Day, isn't it? Lovely. He's 20 years of age. His full name is actually Viktor Varish Kovalenko. Interesting. He is Ukrainian. He's 5'11" inches tall. He weighs 165 pounds, and he's Shakhtar Donetsk's number 74. Interesting choice of number there. He's a midfielder, predominantly right-footed, and he's a client of Nike. He wears their Mercurial Vapor X Silo boots. Social media-wise, he's not on Twitter, I'm afraid, but he's on Instagram. You can look him up there, Viktor Kovalenko, if you wish. And we have indeed tweeted some highlights. You can have a look at him on YouTube as well. So he was born in Kherson, but at the age of 11, he had offers from Shakhtar and Dynamo Kiev. That's a bit of a tough one to choose, isn't it, between the two? And he made his senior debut in 2014 in the Ukrainian Cup with his league bow following in this February, 2 weeks after his 19th birthday. Kovalenko struck a joint leading 5 goals at this summer's FIFA Under-20 World Cup in New Zealand, helping his team to the last 16, and he also featured at the recent Under-19 Championships in Greece. He's a powerful yet technically gifted player. He's got good vision, searing shot and fine distribution, and his first touch is especially impressive. Plus, he has an uncanny knack of being able to judge a situation immediately in order to add pace to an attack. Though he has the attributes of a top-level attacking midfielder, he's also comfortable in a more defensive role, and Kovalenko considers Andrea Pirlo and Toni Kroos to be his ideal central midfielders to look up to, although observers have also likened him to the likes of Cesc Fabregas or Kaká. There are similarities between the youngster and Andrei Shevchenko in terms of dribbling style. That's quite a comparison. He was called up by Ukraine to play in the 2015 Under-20 World Cup, as we said, in New Zealand, where he got 2 goals in a 6-0 victory over Myanmar, I've never heard of, I have to be honest. He added a hat-trick against the United States, I've heard of them, to secure a 3-0 victory in the North Harbour Stadium in Auckland, and his team reached the round of 16. He was the golden boot of that particular tournament with those 5 goals. Kovalenko's made 21 appearances this season, 9 starts. He's played 1,018 minutes for Shakhtar in the league. No goals, sadly, no assists either, but 3 yellow cards, always a silver lining, no reds. And as far as his UEFA Europa League stats this season, he's been a little bit better. 7 appearances, 622 minutes, 2 goals and 1 assist, no yellow cards, no red cards. So he's definitely a European type of player. He's had a pass success percentage of 82.3, averages 1.4 shots per game, and his average rating on Who Scored is 7.16. Couple of quotes for you. This was from the Mimicha Lucescu, who of course was coaching him at a high level. He said he earned his spot in the lineup as a substitute against Fenerbahce through hard work. He's an extremely promising player for our club, and there's no doubt that he has a great future. He has everything a player needs. Lucescu himself looks likely to utilise Kovalenko more and more as the sort of years pass. He certainly got more and more into the team of late, and he's very much admired by the national coach Fomenko, who's kind of looking to make his senior international debut sooner rather than later. And it seems likely, as long as he keeps progressing the way he is, it looks likely that he'll follow in the footsteps of Yarmolenko and Konoplyanka as one of his country's key men. Okay, so that's what we know about him. That's a couple of bits and bobs about the player. Now, I'm fully aware that my fellow hipsters here maybe haven't seen quite as much of him as I have, because I'm obviously sad and have nothing better to do with my life. But I want to just get a feel for what people think. I'm going to start with Drew and John and then come on to Tom, because there's a good comparison that Tom can give us. Drew, I'll start with you. As far as the Bundesliga goes, I just want to sort of get your feelings. He's similar to Leon Goretzka in his style. He's sort of quite direct, good runner with the ball, good dribbler, good athlete, can break up attacks and start attacks, as it were. Which sort of side do you think might look at a player like that in the summer if he was to be prized away from Shakhtar?
Well, I think it would have to be someone who's more high octane, for lack of a better term. I couldn't see him in a Bayern Munich side, or not even a Dortmund side now. But honestly, I think he would actually fit Schalke well. There's always rumors around them selling players. I could also see him at a Leverkusen, because they do play back and forth, counterattack quite a bit, and they do it at pace as well. And I know he's quite good at that. And because he's a direct player, and there's so many direct players already around him, he automatically fits that mold. But I'm not quite sure. I think one of those two. I think he does. From what I do know of him, it's not a ton. I have seen him in the Europa League when I can. I've even caught a little bit with him at the youth levels for the Ukraine. So I feel like he has a good future, but he has to do what others before him have done currently. So, like, the Yarmolenkos, Konoplyankas, he can't make the immediate jump from, say, his age now at Shakhtar to all of a sudden skipping levels and going straight into somewhere like Spain or England. I do think he does need what I like to call like a bumper move. If he went to a solid Bundesliga side, for me right now, there's no better place other than maybe Spain, where he could learn and develop as a footballer. He can't automatically go to someone like, say, City, for example. But he has a talent to succeed at a Leverkusen or Schalke, if you want me to be honest with you. So yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's certainly the size I would have picked out. And John, I'll ask you the same question, because Serie A is always sort of keen to find players with pace who can really change an attacking formation and get teams onto the front foot. I look at the likes of Napoli as far as that goes. Do you think there's potentially a club in Italy that would take a punt on a player with so much sort of raw talent?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of clubs in Italy that do tend to take players from Eastern Europe. Actually, it's becoming quite a trend now. The most obvious one, actually, probably for next season, would be Fiorentina. The problem would be whether they could financially afford it, because they are quite restricted at the moment, because there's talks they'll be losing Kalinic up front and possibly Ilicic as well. And he'd be a sort of player who could come in and play a bit like Ilicic. Lazio maybe as well. They like young players. They like very direct, fast players. So there's definitely opportunities for him. Did you say Myanmar, by the way, the country he played against?
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
yes,
that's Burma in old money to you.
Right. Damn the UEFA source giving sites. That's where I got that from. Damn them.
There you go. That's so yeah. So if anyone else who was confused by Myanmar, yeah, it's what was called Burma. Yeah.
I was definitely confused, that's for sure. Somebody who's not confused, Tom, I just want to get your thoughts on, obviously you know quite a lot about Yevgen Konoplyanka, who's been very successful in Spain in his first season and could even be sold on. Do you think there's sort of a team in Spain that could look at Konoplyanka and think sort of, sorry, not Konoplyanka, you look at Kovalenko and think that they could do the same as Konoplyanka has? Yeah. And also, do you think that a player like Konoplyanka's success will sort of kind of get the blueprint for more players heading to Spain?
Yeah, well, ironically, I think that Sevilla are the team that he could go to if anyone was going to come from Spain. Konoplyanka obviously playing on the left, and with an ageing team of Banega and Jose Antonio Reyes playing on the right, Kovalenko could easily slip into that number 10 role for Sevilla. So it's nice to see another player who's got that sort of style, that Ukrainian attacking midfielder style of close control and opportunistic striking and passing and more creativity over the finishing side of the game, which is nice to see. And yeah, I don't see why not, because Spain takes advantage of a lot of foreign players coming over from leagues which aren't so hyped up in football. You just have to look at Bakambu, who came over from Bursaspor in Turkey as a perfect example. So yeah, I don't see why there wouldn't be an interest there. And as I say, Sevilla are a team that he could possibly team up with.
Absolutely, we shall watch this space. I'm a big fan, really am. And there's a couple of youngsters coming through Shakhtar's ranks, and obviously they're famous for bringing Brazilians across. They've got a couple of very good young players from local areas as well. So definitely one to keep an eye on. We shall see. Might even end up in the Premier League. Who knows? Certainly won't go cheap. Right, so that's another Hipsters Choice out the way for this week. We have already picked next week's. We got organised. Next week we will be looking at Manchester City's Kelechi Iheanacho, who's certainly doing some good things down at the City of Manchester Stadium at the moment. So if anyone happens to have any particular questions about him, do drop us a line. Right, speaking of dropping us a line, we will close out the show as we always do with your questions answered. It's this week's Onion Bag. Right then, let's dive straight into the Onion Bag. Just a couple of questions for our panel. So let's rattle through and see what we've got. We're going to start with Benjamin P, who's at a Sensible Mind. That's a good Twitter handle. I like that. I think he's an Arsenal fan because he wants to know, who do you think Arsenal should, / I'm going to add the word could, replace Giroud with from the leagues above, i.e. our relevant leagues. So, Tom, I'll start with you. If you, taking into consideration all things considered, a player from Spain that Arsenal could replace or add to the squad with as a striker?
Oh, woof. There's a lot of options, but I've been saying it's a few people, and I think that, as I've already mentioned in our Hipsters Choice section, that Bakambu at Villarreal is someone who's come from Turkey to Spain, has been successful, shown he can do it in Europe, in the league, and he's the age of turning 25, where he's at the stage where he can take a step up, showing that he's done it in La Liga, and now can step up to an even larger club like Arsenal. So I don't see why the Congolese striker can't do that.
We didn't say Benzema. We would have had all sorts going through our timeline. Drew, who do you think, Bundesliga-wise?
Who I think they should go after or could? There's a distinct difference between the two. Because if it should, it's Aubameyang. Or if could, I see, some people might think I must, but I would honestly say I think Chicharito is actually of the quality that
I agree.
I think Chicharito is actually a fantastic striker. I think no matter where he's been, bar United, he's been good, and I think United would foolish to let him go. However, I don't know if he'll want to come back to a league in a country where he felt grossly underappreciated. I think he suits Leverkusen. He's got a good understanding. So I would pick Chicharito, but I don't think it would happen. If it's someone I think we actually genuinely could get, I mean, it depends. If Wenger wanted a target man, go get Sandro Wagner. He's cheap. He's identical to Giroud, but he's a little bit of a more opportunistic finisher. He's also better in the air than Giroud. I guess that would be the two I would just point out at the moment. So, yeah.
Fair enough. You are clearly wrong because it's Alexander Meyer. John, what about from Serie A? Anybody realistically you think would be fitting the bill?
Well, there's one that Arsenal went for before, but I think there'll be a queue of clubs going for him, and that's Gonzalo Higuain. I think he's likely to leave Napoli. I say that he'll probably stay now and he'll score another 30-odd goals next year, but he's had an amazing season. He's got a great record. I wasn't overly keen when we were linked with him in the past because I wasn't convinced, but not just this season, but last season as well. He's just played brilliantly, and he looks better now than he ever has done in his career. But there are others. There's Kalinic at Fiorentina, who's a very good player. There's a possible chance of someone like Alvaro Morata. But again, the one thing I will say is that it's not just Arsenal that will be looking at those strikers, or those three in particular. There will be most clubs in the Premier League. If there's a chance of getting any of those, they'll all be looking at them because they're all quality players.
It's going to be tough, isn't it, to try and find somebody. As for the French league, the obvious one that you pull out is Alex Lacazette, which it goes without saying. Michy Batshuayi is another one, although he has actually, breaking news, this has just come out in L'Equipe this evening. He's quoted as saying, "My future is at Marseille. I want to stay. I love the stadium, the fans and the players in the squad. I'm in love with this club and I would prefer to leave after leaving a trace on people's mind. My story from Marseille is far from over." So expect him to be sold in a couple of weeks. But he did sign a new contract, so Batshuayi would be another option. As far as two from completely out of the box, Wissam Ben Yedder, mentioned him before. He does get goals. It'd be a cheap option, so you suit Arsenal. Cavani is the one everyone would say, but no thank you. And the only other one is a certain Swede at PSG that's fishing around in England. I personally would love to see that, but yeah.
Just the 600 grand a week.
Yeah, that's fine. Worth every penny, John. You know it. Right, good question. Thank you for that one. Let's move on to another question. This is a good one, actually. It's quite tough, so do your best, people. Continuous precarity at SGCrazy00. Another great name. Name two highly rated coaches in Spain and Italy who don't coach top 3 teams who do well in England. Everyone get that?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, John, you've piped up, so you can start. He
Um,
says 2 from each league, so...
Okay, well, the first one off the top of my head would be Di Francesco at Sassuolo. Great manager. He's very fortunate he's at a club that is run almost perfectly. If anyone wants to know how to run a football club, then Sassuolo just do it amazingly, especially on the budget they're on. As for another, Donadoni at Bologna. He's got plenty of experience, and again, a small team who have done really, really well, tactically brilliant. As to be honest, everyone in Serie A is, because Italian football is the best, and it's the only league with proper tactics in. But
Meow.
but those two would definitely be top of my list.
Good shouts. And Tom, what about in Spain?
Similar to John in the way they run the club, Valverde, I don't know want to pronounce it, at Bilbao, is obviously a very extremely well-run club. They bring in, even though they're allowed only a pool of players from the Basque region, he brings in the right players, coaches them properly, and gets them playing in a style, a system that was very attractive to watch, and promotes youth in terms of the likes of Iñaki Williams and Jetta and Seven Moreno. Couple of Hipsters choices there, and then the other one I go for is Berizzo at Celta Vigo. I mean, what he's done for Celta this season has been incredible, bringing them up from the lower half of the table, mid-table, to competing for Europa League places, which hopefully you'll see them in next season, and really getting them playing a really intense and a style which requires a lot of fitness, and he gets that at the players. So yeah, I'd go for those two.
Good stuff. Excellent question. Really, really, really good question, that one. Thank you very much. Drew, I'm going to give you the next one, seeing as he didn't put Germany in that list. So, Fred, sad. I know. Fred Thurbin at RLF86, who has indeed written for us before. Thank you, Fred. He wants to ask, should we move refs around Europe's leagues? It could bring more consistency and improve reffing all round. What do you think of that?
I mean, sure, but you have to think about the language barrier. How many Italians speak German? How many people from Spain speak, I don't know, Dutch? So, and sure, everyone in Europe, in theory, learns English to some level if they're not from an English-speaking country. But once you get to a certain point, you stop really using it in your day-to-day goings-on, especially in the workplace. So, I feel like maybe you wouldn't move them around necessarily in them officiating in other leagues. Like, you wouldn't have, the fantastic best and brightest of the Prem, reffing in, say, the Bundesliga. But what you could do is have refs go around more consistently and actually maybe take courses from other FAs, from those refereeing associations, and maybe take certain ideas from countries as to how matches should be run. Maybe you could do that, but I don't know about necessarily officiating other leagues routinely like that, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I don't know about you guys, but I would pay good money to see Wayne Rooney screaming in an Estonian referee's face. So that'd be quite interesting. Here's one for me, actually. PG Nez, PG_Nez, our friend in France. He asked, ignoring PSG, who is your team, coach, or player of the year in Liga? And he puts God bless Leicester as a hashtag. Love that. This is really difficult, PG, and I've ummed and ahed over this, and as typically, I couldn't narrow it down to one. So I've gone for two coaches. One of them's a bit outside of the box. Is the Gazalec Ajaccio coach, Thierry Leroy, or Leroy, whichever you prefer. I think, given their budget, given what he's done, even if they go down, I think he's done a magnificent job. If they stay up, then definitely. If they go down, you could probably argue maybe not. But what he's done with that club and to take them from where they were, I just think he's done an amazing job. The other one, probably a bit more obvious, but I think the Nice coach, Claude Puel, has done another magnificent job. Yes, Hatem Ben Arfa has been largely responsible for their good form, but if you look at the likes of players he's brought through, Seri, and Mendy in the midfield, and Namphalis Mendy, some of these players, Cosiello, of course, another one. Some of these players he's brought through and nurtured and really sort of given the opportunity to play. If you look at the average age of the Nice squad, what they've done this season has been fantastic. And I think he's another coach that's very much on the up. And I do think that he's probably worth recognition. We all know, of course, PSG will probably get the honours. A little nod for Bruno Genesio at Lyon as well. Just for what he's done, again turning Lyon's season completely on its head, and and this is his first proper coaching job, so definitely give him a nod. As far as the second part of your question, I might save that because we'll probably do a podcast at the end of the season where we look at our players of the year. Then, so I'll probably leave that for another day. And as far as team of the year, again, you'd be surprised to know it's not Marseille. I know that's quite a shock, but I would probably say that Lyon would be my team of the year just because of what they've done from where they were. So that's half the question answered. We'll do the rest at another part. Right, our final question tonight comes from Pete Kennelly, our good friend at Kennelly Peter. He said, and I'll ask you all for a very quick answer on this one, can you see any teams in your leagues, quote, doing a Leicester? I presume he means next season. Sean, I'll start with you. Anyone in Serie A that you could see doing this next season?
For the similar size to Leicester, I suppose Leicester do have money, but no, not really. I mean, next year you would expect Juve will still be favourites. There may be a lot of ins and outs at the club, but Allegri looks like he's signing a new deal. He'll still be there. He's the best manager in the league. They've got the best squad at the moment. I can't really see past them. Napoli, maybe Roma might push them a little bit harder next year. You never know, but I don't think there's a team that can really do it. The old adage that the only time a sort of one of the big teams didn't win Serie A was the one season where referees were randomly assigned to games and not picked depending on the certain rules and what clubs who they wanted reffing. So maybe that doesn't help either.
No, it definitely doesn't. Tom, could you see anybody in La Liga sort of breaking the monopoly of what we now have to say is the top three?
No, it's obviously I'll talk to you guys about the whole time of the structure of Spain, but when you have three hyper clubs in the same league, you can't really fathom a team like in the same. I mean, you can look at the likes of a comparison team for me is Eibar, and like they came up from the lower league and then have done well this season and really fought for a place in the Europa League when you fought in the first half and even in the second half slightly, but they couldn't maintain that and they're never going to beat the likes of that because it's Barcelona, Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. I mean, Atletico Madrid are an example of more a surprise and gaining respect in the top three now. So, but no, it's not possible in Spain.
Fair enough. And Drew, I think it's going to be a full house here, but yeah, anyone, it's hard enough breaking Bayern's stranglehold full stop, let alone having a club come out of nowhere and do it. If Dortmund can't do it, who on earth can?
I mean, and Dortmund only did it briefly, and then you have a lot of criticism from a lot of people that were saying Bayern kept Dortmund in check by buying Dortmund's best players. Thus putting Bayern back at the top.
You had to get that in, didn't you?
Of course I did.
but
it's true. But I mean, it's not for their fault because no one in Germany can really resist the Bayern allure. If Bayern are known to be interested in you, you go to Bayern. It's just, and I can't necessarily blame them for that. But to answer the question, I don't think so. I think Dortmund had a little spell. We've had sides for 1 year come up and do it. Werder Bremen did it, and in not so distant future, Stuttgart as well. But I don't think anyone can. I think Bayern's still at the point where they're too strong. If Dortmund can't do it, and Dortmund having a brilliant season, and Dortmund still aren't even in first place. So I don't think if they can do it, I don't think anybody can. You might get those surprises like the Augsburgs and the Mainz Herthas and stuff, but I don't think you ever get another out of nowhere champion like the likes of what we've seen from Leicester this season. I don't think it's possible.
No, you'll be shocked to know that I concur with all of your views in France because, let's be honest, PSG can win it whenever they choose. That said, Montpellier, of course, did cause... In fact, Montpellier probably is as close to the Leicester story in European leagues as you could pull out, to be honest. I mean, they won it with a very limited budget. Yeah, they won it with Olivier Giroud.
I mean, Kaiserslautern and got promoted.
Yeah, that's a show.
The same year, so that's the only thing you can really even compare it to. But
I think the Leicester, not to take away from Leicester's winning the league, is an amazing achievement, but I think it puts some doubts on the quality of the Premier League.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt in the excitement, and that's why people watch it and why it's so thrilling to watch, and it is end to end, and that kind of aspect of it. But I think maybe some of the players in the Premier League are a little bit overhyped.
And of course, it has to be said, and again, not taking anything away from Leicester, but had the likes of Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City, Man United all been the clubs that we know them to be, I don't think it would have been quite as close as
they've been incredibly lucky with injuries as well. You've not seen Mahrez and Vardy get injured whatsoever. So.
No, and took some
Kante as well. If he gets injured, that's the season done.
Took some really good punts, but no, full credit to them, absolutely. But I can't see anyone breaking PSG's monopoly. Short of someone else being bought. Marseille potentially, well, they are up for sale if somebody buys them for a lot of money, but we saw Monaco get bought for a lot of money and that didn't work out too well, did it? So good question.
You wait for Espanyol to drive up the league.
I can sense Lorient just grinding their title charge into gear over the summer. Probably not, but good question that, Pete. Very, very good. And thank you to all of our people who have sent us questions tonight. We really appreciate that. We've got through all of them tonight. We try and get through as many as we can, so if you have got a question, pop it across to us at the FH Podcast. We'll do our best to get them answered. Right, that's our show for this week. Thank you to everyone, as usual, for tuning in, for downloading us, for making us your hipster's choice, as it were. Don't forget, you can get us on YouTube, on iTunes, or on Stitcher. I think that's the only three we're on. I'm sure you could probably find other places we're on, but they're the three we know about. If you do get a chance, do drop us a comment, drop us a tweet, do us an iTunes review if you can. That always helps. Check out a breakfast pod as well, which we do on a Sunday night, which is our roundup of all things English football. Myself and Ross had a good chat last night about various things from Arsenal processes to the Championship title race. So quite a lot to chew into there. And myself and John will be back on Thursday this week, where we'll do a Hipsters Satchel pod, where we will break down, we'll actually know who will be the Champions League finalists and who will be the Europa League finalists. So do tune in for that as well. But all that is to be said, really, is to thank my guests, Tom, John, and Drew, for their time this evening. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Indeed.
And we will return next week. The seasons are almost at an end. That's either a good thing if you're an Arsenal fan, or it's a bad thing if you're a football fan. But nevertheless, we'll be here when all the silverware is handed out. So keep your glasses trendy and indeed your beard strong, whichever way round you like that saying. And we will speak to you very soon.
Mais le corner! Oh, quel geste! Quel geste! L'égalisation de Zlatan Ibrahimovic!
Andres Iniesta, se anima Andres. Andres tocó la evolución de Neymar. Messi!
Versucht alles aus sich rauszuholen, verfolgt von Schmelzer. Müller, vorbei an Weidenfeller. Müller! Bayern München ist Pokalsieger!
Che può battere Insigne con il destro a giro! Ad rete! Favoloso! Si gonfia la rete! Favoloso!